All right, I'm now joined by a very, very special guest. New York Mets organization pitcher Tyler Zuber joins us. Tyler, it's great to see you, man. I'm glad we were finally able to make the scheduling work on this, but looking forward to having you on. How are you, and how's everything going in the off season?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just enjoying the good warm weather out here in Arizona. Before I go back and do some cold weather deer hunting, and then before we get kicked up. Yeah. So other than that, everything's been great.
Love it, dude. So I had some questions about like the playoffs and like the Mets and your time there so far. A trend I've noticed this postseason has been elite bullpen arms have been getting hit hard. I know in the Phillies Mets series, like every time they'd bring in this like lockdown reliever, they'd get like give up like a homer. In this like playoff atmosphere in a series where you're seeing the same relievers over and over, and as a pitcher, when you're seeing the same lineup like consecutively, how much of a disadvantage is that for the pitcher, and how do you guys like work to try to fix that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like obviously a very smaller scale in AAA where you play the same team 6 days in a row at either their place or at home. So on typically like on two if you pitch on Tuesday, for instance, you then you then get a chance to see, three different hitters. And then say you pitch again on Thursday, you face three different hitters. Well, by then there's only three other hitters that you haven't seen already. So the chances of you pitching again on Saturday or Sunday and you seeing one of the six guys that you've already seen before is pretty high. Um, so for me, like just thinking and talking with some other guys, it's very important to remember how you sequenced and how you got them out. If maybe they didn't see a pitch cert like well or something, like rather than go fastball, fastball, sweeper, maybe disguise that sequence a little bit more and like you want to get them out with a sweeper, so let's set them up with something different. Like let's go sweeper first pitch, like maybe like your B sweeper, and then finish them with your A sweeper. So like they're kind of not trying to see the same mixture both times. You still get them out with the same pitch. It's just maybe like a different way of disguising how you get them out. Um, so for me, like that would be that. Like hitter wise, like if you're a good hitter, which I've played with a lot of good hitters, a lot of them will go back and they'll write down like, I faced Zuber and he threw me fastball up, he threw me a slider down, he threw me a fastball in, and then he got me out away. And then like he'll go back and he'll like see who am I facing. He'll go back, like you'll see the good ones. They'll go back and read over like how was the sequence. Like, all right, I know that for the past 20 at bats I've gotten out away. That's where he's going to want to go. So then they'll change their sights and they'll set up away. Like they'll do some chess match with you. So that's the part of the game that's really fun.
Yeah, it's crazy because like you can't. There's only so many ways you can get a guy out, and if you see him like, especially like back to back days, like I feel like some of these guys in these bullpens are seeing like the same guys every single time, like especially high leverage. I feel like in the the Mets have done this with Edwin Diaz, where like he'll come in regardless of the inning to face the 1-2-3, and he's
Mm-hmm.
probably seen the 1-2-3 in that lineup before. So and these guys are smart. So like yeah, I've always just wondered. So like is that put a little bit more pressure on you guys when you're facing the same guys consecutively?
No, because in the end, like at the end of the day, we as pitchers hold it's the game is more centered around us. So the game is a game of failures mostly for the hitters. They fail 7 out of 10 times, they're still in the Hall of Fame. So those 7 times, that's in our favor. Now you just hope that one of the 3 times that they might get you or get a hit, it stays in the ballpark and it doesn't go for like a big crooked number. Um, but again, like if you're on the mound and you have complete confidence in your stuff and like your mentality is like you can't hit me, which as you've seen with Edwin Diaz, like he goes out there and ramps up his fastball and just says basically here it is. He goes from first and second no outs to he's facing 3, 4, 5, and he goes three straight strikeouts, like all on the heaters. So like you just shows you how elite his fastball is. And even though like, all right, I've seen it now 3 times in a row, like they're still in the back of their mind or like respecting his slider because of how good it is. But you also see like, all right, his fastball is pretty dang good. I just can't hit it. So I need to make an adjustment. I'm hoping he throws me a slider. If he throws me a slider, I'm on it. But he doesn't ever throw you a slider, and by that point, that bat's over.
One thing I've seen too about hitting is talk to me about fastballs down the middle. I was been reading articles like some guys like struggle consistently with fastballs down the middle. There's been whole teams like they just can't figure it out. Like, so if you put one down the middle, is that by design? Is it mostly by accident? And how confident are you that if it does end up middle, that like you could still like pitchers can still get away with that?
Yeah, there was like a last spring training when I was in Arizona with the Diamondbacks. Um, I wasn't in the meeting, but I had heard it was some freakish stat. Like it was like I'm gonna get the numbers wrong, but it was like eight eight pitches out of like 1,000 pitches that were down the middle resulted in a double, triple, or a homer. 8 out of 1,000 that were like you look at the 9 box square, the center square was like 8 of those went for it, and it could have even been a single, but I think it was like an extra base hit. So like when you think of those odds, like as a pitcher, you only remember like, man, I just threw a fastball down the middle as a home run. It's like, all right, yeah, but like you've thrown 6 innings or you've thrown, 16 innings this year. How many of those 16 innings have you thrown a pitch right down the middle, a fastball only, and it's gotten hit? Like, well, I've thrown 20 of them and only one of them's gotten hit. It's like, okay, so here we are, like we're playing percentages here. Like you consistently do it, you're going to have a lot of success. And I don't know what it is about the middle heater. I have no idea. I don't know if it's like the blind spot as a hitter or it's just like their sights are set to like different quadrants of the plate. Like I'm set up, I'm looking away or I'm looking in, and that middle heater is just like that one. It's like I don't know if it's out, I don't know if it's in. Like I don't know, and by that point, it's already there. So to be honest, I have no idea. I just know it's you see fans get, especially for like their team, they get so upset. It's like,
Yep.
what are you doing not swinging at that? Like you could, like that's the ball that you're supposed to drive. It's like for me to talk to those fans, if I could ever talk to them, I'd say, have you ever stood in a box in front of 50,000 people and know like this is your game plan against this player and like all the information that they're given, and it's like, okay, now go hit that pitch. Also, you don't know what's coming. You have no idea. A lot of times to pitchers, like it's not a purposeful pitch. It's more of 0-2 fastball. I'm trying to throw it as hard as I can, and I want to go away with it, and it leaks middle, and they just take it. And typically, like it's like your best analytic fastball. Like it's not definitely not by design. You don't ever see the catcher set up middle 0-2. If they do, it's like they know something that I don't.
You're right though about fans because yeah, that's like fan 101. That's like if you see a guy miss on or like take a fastball down the middle, it's like all right, well this guy. But yeah, it's just like it puts maybe you're right. Maybe not expecting it. Maybe it freaks him out a little bit. It's like I wasn't expecting to have the perfect pitch thrown to me. I've been looking for stuff away or whatever. So
I,
um it's
it's weird.
I think like Justin Turner, I think he missed like 50 some fastballs down the middle or he didn't hit 50. I don't know. It was some crazy stat where he just didn't touch anything down the middle. So yeah, the best hitters in the league, they can go up there and it's like, well, all right, that's kind of messed that one up. But yeah, I've always wondered that it's frustrating in the playoffs too if you see a middle and it doesn't get crushed because that's supposed to be
Yeah,
it.
I know, and a lot of times like you might see like a foul ball, like and then like they give you that look, like oh I just missed that ball. It's like yeah, you just missed it, but now I just got you set up. Like now you're set up for me because now you want that pitch again. Now you're thinking about that pitch, and we're already on to pitch number two. And now you're like, all right, I can't miss that fastball. Oh, it looks so good, but after that fastball, you don't see another one. So
Yep. The pitcher batter chess match is the best.
um,
Um, in your short time though with the Mets, what have you noticed about their pitching philosophy organizationally? What have you liked about what you've heard so far from those guys?
I like the fact like there's a lot of resources available. Like there's a lot of um, either like different camera angles that you can watch and like dissect like your mechanics. The pitching lab in Florida is really like it's really sweet. Um, I think that they have like for me, like I wouldn't call myself a driveline guy, but I went to driveline and like there was things there that like I really enjoyed. And there's guys that are with us now that were former employees of driveline. So like the lingo, the how they did things at driveline, like I can relate to a lot easier. Um, some of the coaches there, because the sweeper still, I mean, I would call it like me only throwing it for a year. I would say that's still technically a new pitch for me. There's coaches that we have that know the sweeper and know like how it's supposed to break and different things with it. So for me personally, like I like having like that resource there available to like help me with quote unquote like my pitch.
I feel like the Mets. I was reading about Severino added a sweeper this year, and it's worked for him really well. And I feel like the Mets are doing. Is that a product of the pitching lab? Is that a product of the coaches and they have like the resources they've given you guys? Like I feel like they're just doing everything right when it comes to working with guys and throwing.
Yeah, so I went when I was at Driveline actually last year. The throwing trainer that I was using was actually he. I walked in one day and I saw this big like behemoth guy throwing on the mound, and it was Severino, and they were doing a sweeper pitch design that day. So what like again, I started off the year with Cleveland, and then I went to Indy Ball, and then I went to Tampa. So between that time and he's obviously been with New York all year, I don't know if they may have tinkered with something with the sweeper. Um, I know that whenever he was throwing it in Arizona, it was pretty good. I watched him throw last night, and it's pretty freaking good. It's hard. It's one of the harder sweepers I've ever seen. Um, yeah, I mean, like they're just good at they're good at utilizing like what you have and then making it better.
I'm always so curious because I read Baseball Savant. I love looking at the graphs and the charts and stuff for you guys. And they did this with Severino, where last year his four seam fastball was getting demolished, and then they're like, "What if you just throw less of those?" And it just like it makes so much sense because you're like, "Yeah, why would I throw more if it's getting crushed?" So like, is that is that is it like easy for me as a fan to like look at these spray charts and see like heat maps are bad, and for pitchers to be like, "All right, like what is the process like to see what's getting crushed, do more, do less? Is that organizationally different? Is that like how does that all work?"
It kind of just works between like as a collective group, right? So like me as a pitcher, I need to realize like what do I think I do well, and like what are my strengths on the mound, and then what are my weaknesses. So say like for me, my weaknesses are throwing a ball high, elevating fastballs, but my strengths are throwing heaters inside. And so then, like as an organization, they could take that information and go plug it through like their system, as well as me go look at like different programs that we have. And it's like, okay, on elevated heaters, but yet I continuously throw elevated heaters. So it's like you look at elevated heaters and what is the batting average? So it's like, all right, you get hit for a 375 clip when you throw fastballs at the top quadrant or above. However, when you throw heaters on the middle three or the three quadrants on the inside to a righty, you get hit at a 090. So then it's like, all right, let's start to shift a little bit. Like, all right, you get hit up here, you don't get hit inside. Let's if you're going to throw it high, let's go way above, or let's just stop cold turkey and then let's go in. Like let's start to throw in more, and then let's protect it with maybe like a slider, a curveball, a changeup, like a sinker. Like let's do something to like let's work in, because right now opponents are hitting 90 against you in there. So it's kind of like a collective group.
How hard is it to kick old habits, or just like if you've fallen in love and you think a certain pitch or a certain thing that you do well, if you like it, how hard is it to try to adjust based on some of the advice that you're given?
Well, it depends. Like, are you wanting to be in your mind? Are you wanting to be good, or you want to be satisfied with? and like kind of have an ego and like, no, man, like this has worked in the past when I was in college, so like I'm gonna keep doing it. Like it kind of depends on that, right? So like some guys have the big egos and they're like, this dude, like, no, like I know you're telling me to throw fastballs in, but man, I have lived at the top of my zone, at the top of the zone since I was in college. In college, it worked. Rookie ball, it worked. Low A, it worked. Man, I'm good. I don't need to do that. Or it's like, okay, listen, if I want to make the next jump to the big leagues, what do I need to do? Like, let's just like let me give it a try and let me just try this one thing. And then if it works, then the organization's smart. I'm smart for listening and adjusting. And now I go to the big leagues and now the same thing. Now I have success and now I'm helping a major league club win. And now I'm a major league player like I've always dreamt and wanted. So you kind of have two avenues. Like, do you have an ego and you don't want to change, or you're like want to in your mind is like, I want to be the best, I want to be great, and you'll make the change.
As someone who's been on multiple organizations now and has heard from a lot of guys, there's been a lot of voices in your ear. What approach have you taken?
Um, honest, like for me, like I want to be great. Like I want to be an everyday major league player. I want to throw seventh, eighth, or ninth inning. Ultimately, I just want to be the closer in a major league setting. Like that's my dream. Like that's what I want. I want to do that. I want to do that. If it's for 1 year, great. If it's for 5 years, great. Like I that's what I want. I want to do that. Um, so for me, it's like I want to take what I do well and I want to keep doing it, but I also want to make it better if I can. So like there's obviously always room for improvement. There's ways that you can make it better. There's ways that you can throw certain pitches that and certain pitches in certain locations that can make that pitch elevate without changing anything about it. So all of that is it's a constant continuous cycle of learning. So that's where I'm at now is I'm still learning, um, talking with different people. I mean, yet last night I screen recorded 3 videos of the pitchers last night throwing a sweeper. Like, and here I am. I mean, I feel like I got a pretty decent one, and here I am trying to like alter my grip so that way I can get a better one.
Ooh, who throws the best sweeper right now, or who are some of the guys you look up to that are ripping on?
Um, I know Trinan's got a really good one, and I don't know if I would consider his a sweeper or I would consider it more like a I don't know if you want to call it like a curving sweeper. Um, it kind of has depth to it. Severino's got a good one. I didn't even know Bueller had one, but I watched last night and he had one. So, and I watched it and it was like averaging 19 inches of horizontal break, and one that I specifically watched at 26. I was like, I want that one. Um, who's another one? There was another good one. Clay Holmes has a good one. Manaya's got a good one. It's hard to see a lefty throw one because I'm like, man, like that ball looks like it's breaking 15 feet, but and he throws left-handed. He's got way different mechanics and whatnot. I enjoy watching it, but I wouldn't say like I'm looking up like I want to know how to throw that one because it's so hard. Um, I mean, shoot, I could if I thought about it, I could probably name probably 10 or 15 more. But there's quite some that are in the big leagues that whenever they go on the TV, I'm glued in.
Yeah, I was reading about Mania. He like throws like Chris Sale now. I think that was he just completely revamped the way he throws the ball. How have you
Mid
seen that
season,
firsthand yet?
nah, just on TV. I
Yeah.
because I never made it up to New like to City Field. I never made it there. I never got recalled back. I obviously like my time with New York. I liked it. I there was a lot of factors like I put too much pressure on myself. There was just like I didn't get quite comfortable until middle of the way, and by that point it was like it's just like a string of bad luck just started happening. It was like I couldn't escape it. So like I mean I'm not mad for not getting called up. Um, but I've only watched it on TV, and I never really knew what he did. I heard and read reports like, yeah, he changed it mid season, and then you go and watch like his bullpen routine. It's like what? Like, if I'm thinking like back in the day, like whenever I first started to pitch, and they're like, "Hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to stand on the right rubber, and I want you to pitch to me on the left rubber, and then vice versa." Like that, those old school pitching coaches are probably like, "This is about the dumbest thing I've ever seen." Like they're just like they're turning over in their grave. Like it's just like, what are we doing now? But I think, I mean, honestly though, like I mean, kudos to him. He's having a breakout season. I mean, him and Severino and Quintana like leading the staff, like and Peterson too. Like they're just. But Mania he took a step forward, and I think for him doing that, like it takes. I mean, it takes some guts to like mid-season change, and like you're not talking like I'm gonna go from the third base side of the rubber to the first base side. It's like no, I'm gonna revamp my entire mechanics completely. And I mean, it worked. It's working.
It's got to be so hard. Yeah, he took it down to the studs and just completely changed everything about him. I had a question about trying to find like the way that you were going to be a pitcher, like trying to find your way. I saw a quote that I think this might be going back to college, but you said at one point you were like trying to be somebody that you weren't. You were trying to be, I think you said a Roldis Chapman at one point. How long did it kind of take you to try to find who you were as a pitcher?
So it's funny that you say that because I actually spoke to my old college, and I said that in the meeting. I said, you know what? Like I saw a quote by Marcus Stroman when I think I was in college, and somebody asked him who he wanted to like emulate his mechanics like, and he said Marcus Stroman. They said no, like who do you want? Like Greg Maddux, Nolan Ryan, John Smoltz. Like who do you want? And he said Marcus Stroman, because if Marcus Stroman does what he does, then he's going to be pretty freaking good. But if I try to do what Nolan Ryan did, I'm not going to be the best version of myself. And so then in college, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't care really what anyone thinks. Like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make me the best version of myself. And if that's throwing on my head and that's being dominant, then by all means, I'm gonna stand on the mound on my head and I'm gonna throw pitches. So I think realizing like you can take things that they do, but don't try to model your entire game after them, because their model of their game and your model of your game are two completely different games.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't make sense. So like if you're like, oh, I really like the way that a Chapman loads, but I really like the way that Kopech blocks with his front leg. So it's like, okay, now I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna try it. And if it works, then guess what? Now I'm the best version of Tyler Zuber because I took a little bit from him and a little bit from him. I'm not trying to be like them. I'm just taking what little bit that they do well and I'm doing.
I think, yeah, I also, yeah, everybody's unique in the way that like their body's built too. I know for you as like a smaller guy, like how did that kind of help shape your pitching style, your mentality? Was there like the, the cliche, but like the chip on your shoulder type of mentality going into some of these things?
I mean, yeah, like I think you have to have a chip on your shoulder. For me, like it was like I had to have the chip on my shoulder because I was never like a 6'4" guy. I was never like supposed to be number one in the draft. I was never like the number one prospect. Like I was never any of that stuff. So it was like, all right, I always had something to prove, and I still think I have something to prove, and I'll still think I have something to prove even if I'm a 10-year big leaguer. It's like, yeah, well, like yeah, like you got 10 years. Like yeah, I know I got 10 years, but do I have an All Star? Do I have a World Series? Do I have a Hall of Fame career? No, then I have something to prove. Like there's always something that you can do that you need to improve on that ultimately like will get you where mentally like you want to be. Um yeah, I mean that like just being shorter, I had to, like my workouts are a little different because I've got to use my legs more. So like I gear more towards the lower body. Like I try to use every ounce and every inch of my height that I possibly can to throw it as hard as I can.
Yeah. I think also just like filtering out and filtering in, I guess, just like all this information thrown at you, your teammates, like when you got to the big leagues for the very first time and you're a rookie and you're in a clubhouse in Kansas City, like did you lean on veterans? Did you talk to other guys about like what worked, what didn't? Like, what's the experience being a rookie in a locker room like, and trying to get the most out of the people you're playing with?
I just think honestly, like I was kind of spoiled. So I had Trevor Rosenthal, I had Greg Holland, I had Ian Kennedy, my rookie in 2020. In 21, I had Greg Holland and Wade Davis that I shared a bullpen with. So like I had in 2 years, I had four, and I also had Irvin Santana, who was a starter but played in the big leagues for 15 years. So like between those four guys or five guys, I had 10, 11, 15, 15. I mean, I had, 50 years worth of major league experience, four of them in the bullpen at a high level. So, like, for me, like, I would ask them stuff. Like, I would figure out, like, I would ask them some stuff, but then it was mostly me watching. Like, all right, what do they do? Like, what do they do on a day to day basis so that way they're ready for 162 games? Like, what are they doing the night before, the day of, during the game, and then before they go pitch, and then what do they do post game? Like, I've seen a lot of that. That is kind of what I get caught up. Like, that's what I enjoy doing. Like, if it was up to me, I would be a fly on the wall in every major league clubhouse that has like elite pitchers, like high level pitchers, and I would go sit in there and I would just watch. I would be right on their shoulder and I'd watch everything that they do and just try to see, well, and then I'd go up to them and be like, hey, why do you do like why do you drink that bottle of water after you get through pitching? Well, yada yada yada. Like, oh, okay. And then now maybe I try it. Now maybe I try it and maybe it works for me. If it doesn't, like, okay, again, me and him are completely different people. So now I tried it. It didn't work for me, so I'll try something different.
I love talking to relief pitchers, especially because some of them have like the light bulb, like it just they flip a switch and they turn into like they get locked in because you guys are sitting out there for like 2.5 hours doing nothing, and then once the phone rings, have you studied the way some of the guys like can lock in immediately? What do you do when you hear the phone ring and they're like, all right, Tyler, get hot? Like, what is there like a switch flip for you?
I think it doesn't necessarily start at that point because if it starts at that point, you're already late. Now there's some guys that can go from sitting like this to they look over, the phone rings, hey, get hot, and they can stand up, they go out there and they do their job and they're great. Those guys are few and far between. They're now the whenever I would watch, you would see like Greg Holland had the same routine. He sat his bag down the exact same way. He would turn around. He would do the exact same thing every single day. He would get his fingernail clippers out every single day. He would like sit in the same spot. He would clip his fingernails. He would bull crap for 3 innings. He would go. He would then like look up at the scoreboard, see the inning. It was the third. He would start moving around for the next 3 innings because he knew from 6, 7, 8, 9, it could be him. And then like just watching, like he would be ready. And then as soon as the phone rang, it was like he's already ready. He's already done his work. He knows what he needs to do, and he's prepped and ready. So like you saw the switch flip after about the third or fourth inning. Like you just saw like it went from like laughing and joking around and to like it was just like it's go time. It's like wow, okay, so that's something unique.
Yeah, especially I guess if he doesn't have a defined role, like we're buddies with Pete Fairbanks. I know you play with him in Tampa.
Yeah,
I think it might be maybe not easier, but just like he's more accustomed to like he has the ninth inning, like he
yeah.
knows pretty much when he's going in. Um, First of all, what was it like sitting down there? Did you play in the Trop or were you on the road when you were in Tampa?
I played in Yankee Stadium and then I played at the Trop for 2 games each.
What did you like about sitting in the bullpen in Tampa with those guys? That whole unit down there was incredible. Shout out the boy Pete. Like what was that like for you?
I personally, my first time ever playing at the Trop was in 21, and my stuff was better than pitching outside. So I was like, man, I would love to pitch in Tampa. Like pitching in Tampa would be so sick. Like my stuff upticks. Like it was just great. And then whenever I got there, it was like, holy smokes, like it upticked again. It was like, oh man, this is so much fun. And then like every guy down there's a stud. Like they have something unique about them that they do, and they do it like that's it. Like that's all that they do, and they do it well, and it works, and it gets out. It gets out of jams. It gets out. It gets a 1, 2, 3 inning. Um, Pete, I mean, Pete's a unit to begin with. Like he's like looking at the Empire State Building to begin with. Elite stuff on the mound. Like I mean, you're talking 100 coming from 7 foot up here straight down, and then it decides to just flatten out. Um, a filthy changeup now, a slider, curveball. Like I mean, he better watch out. He could end up being a starter. But I will say this too, like him having the ninth inning, like when you have a defined role, like you just your routine that whole day is already laid out. It's kind of like a starter. Like I know exactly what I need to do as soon as I get to the field to the second that BP's over to the second that the first pitch goes. Like I know exactly like what I need to do. I need to do this. 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 Now I go out in the fourth. I hang out with the boys for 2 innings. I go inside, start prepping, mental work, whatever it might be, and then eighth inning comes along. Like everyone unties their spikes because you know you got the ninth. Like it's just having a role just makes it life a whole lot easier. Now, obviously, he earned the role, so it's what it is. What it is.
That'll be you
That's what we all
someday,
want.
though. You'll
That's
have the
right.
ninth inning someday. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I don't know who it will be with, but that's right.
Yeah. It did you like sitting in the bullpen in the trop just on the field? I feel like if I was down there, I would just wear a foul ball because I wasn't paying attention.
I did. I did. I mean, it was. I didn't mind it. Like it was comfy. I mean, decent seats. It's just it was. I like the trop. It hurts to see what happened to it, but man, golly.
I've been reading about where they're gonna play. There's like 10 options they're throwing around right now. I feel the roof is just it just hurts my heart seeing that.
I know it's terrible. It's terrible.
How hard would it be if they were to go play in a minor league stadium? I feel like they're throwing around like the spring trainings, the other team spring trainings, maybe Disney World. Like as a big leaguer, is would that be weird? Like having all your stuff be in a 5,000 seat stadium?
Um, I would say it would just be another piece of adversity that you got to go through. Like Mother Nature did this. Okay, fine. Like we still have a job to do. Like there's no different. Like yeah, like playing at home in the trop is like that's your home, so to say. So like not having a home, it would suck. But like call this like your new temporary home, like because the new stadium's gonna be getting worked on. Like so, like even though the new stadium might get worked on, like say something happened to the trop and say like the roof caved in because of not because of the hurricane, but something else. Um, you'd have to move again. So like it's better to have to be prepared to like not play your first game there now than like middle of the season. Hey, by the way, we're supposed to go on a 3 game road trip, and then when we come back, we need to be somewhere else. Where are we going? So like they, I mean, they'll get it figured out. They'll be somewhere. Like it's just going to be another piece of adversity, just like how COVID was. Everyone was like having adversity thrown at them. It's just going to be another thing, another chapter in their storybook.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think Toronto had to play in Buffalo. So
Toronto had to play in their spring training, and then they had to play in Buffalo. So yeah, it's another adversity.
I wanted to talk a little bit about just like this last year for you. It's been a whirlwind, I'm sure. I mean, there's been a lot of adversity you've had to face this year too. And really just like the motivation to keep going. I had a question about that. It's the morning baseball question. Um, in the face of all this stuff and all this adversity, like where did you find the motivation to keep? I think you had said just like one more week to keep going, keep trying this to make this work. Where did you dig deep and where did you find the motivation for that?
When I signed with Cleveland, I thought like this is like the probably like the greatest blessing that could have happened. Like I knew some people there. I played against them. They knew who I was because Kansas City, Cleveland, the same division. Um, Everything, all the stars were lining up for like, this is right where I need to be. And then I had a bad spring and I got released. And that one probably stung the most. It hurt because I invested so much money into my career for the first time the past off season. I really put all my eggs into the basket of I'm going all in to like on my career and I'm going to be the best version of myself that I possibly could be. And so when I got released, it was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like this sucks. Like I'm ready to retire. But then I was like, you know what? Like, would I rather retire like this with someone else telling me, or would I rather go out on my own terms? And like in my head, I was like, no, I want to go out on my own terms. But then I was like, you know what? You're hurt too bad. You might as well hang it up. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna give it another week. So I was working out like at a local gym here in Arizona. My wife and I would go. I would throw bullpens, throw lives. My stuff was like good. I was like throwing, and I would look at like other people's numbers, and I'm like, man, I'm absolutely like my stuff is better than yours, and I'm throwing in a bullpen, and you're throwing in a like adrenaline rush game. Like I'm better than you. And I wouldn't hear anything all week. And then Friday, and then I'd say, all right, you know what? Next Friday's my date. Next Friday's my date. And then something would come about like on Thursday, like on Friday, as soon as I'd walk in the facility, it'd be like, hey, so and so's like asking around, and I threw your name, and you piqued their interest. I was like, all right, I'll keep going. I'll go till next Friday. And it'd be like Thursday, they'd say, yeah, no, like they went another route. It's like, all right, well, if I don't hear anything after tomorrow, I'm done. And then I'd show up the next day and be like, hey, like I heard from my connection over in Japan, and they really want to like keep up with you. I'm like all right, all right, I'll go till next Friday. And so then it was that, and then I was like, you know what, like I'll go play indie ball. So I went and played indie ball and threw well. And honestly, I had the most fun I've ever had playing ball. It was the most fun. It was a blast. Now the pay was not good at all. The baseball wise, the most fun. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I would do it again, but gun to my head, I'd probably do it again. And then whenever I got told like, "Hey, you're going to Tampa," or like Tampa's interested, I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, signed the contract yesterday, so I signed it. Went to Tampa. Was having a really good run with Tampa, with Durham. Um, Over the All Star break, end up getting a phone call from them saying, "Hey, we're going to add you to the roster," which I was like, "Holy smokes!" I was like, all right, well, I put in the work. I was like, all right, like it's not guaranteed I'm going up, but like I put in the work. Like I've just got to keep doing what I'm doing. And then we come out of the All Star break in 2 days. I get another phone call from the manager that said, "Hey, you're going to the big leagues." And I've never cried like this. Like I cried so much because it was like surgery, no one interested for 3 months. Go to winter ball, no one interested for those 3 months. Finally, 2 weeks before camp's supposed to start, Cleveland calls. No one calls after I get released for 3 weeks. I go play indie ball. No one calls for the first 2 weeks, but then that next half week, people started calling. So it was like this whole long time of like almost 9 months, maybe 10 months, and not a soul called. No one wanted me. And just all those doubts and just constant, just like something just telling me, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And it was like, it made it all worth it. Um, and then obviously I get optioned because it was like already kind of predetermined, which I knew that. And then I get called back up, and then to find out like, hey, you're getting traded. It's like, what? I said, I just got here. And they're like, yeah, like they wanted you. So, and so I was like, all right. So then like I get traded, like then there was like a sense of like, all right, well, I got to try to do something more than what I was. And that right there was like public enemy number one. I should have never done that, because what got me there and what got me to the back to the big leagues with Tampa, and what got me traded, what got me on the radar of the Mets is not what I did. And so then it was like, a constant behind the eight ball game again. And so, yeah, I mean, there was just now that I had like, I'll be honest, like I had a terrible stretch with them. Like there was a terrible 2 months. So now, like, there's more motivation now to come back and be like, all right, you guys wanted me for a reason. I'm gonna get back to that, and then I'm gonna end up. My goal is to break with the team in spring. Like that's my goal, and I'm not gonna settle for anything less. Obviously, if they call me in and say, hey, we're gonna send you down to AAA, like I can't say no, I'm not doing that. But my mindset and my goal is I'm going to be one of the 8 relievers that is on the plane heading to Citi Field. Like that's my goal. So
Dang. Dude, that's such an incredible story. Especially because I was reading about like the Mets GM David Stearns, the way he was talking about you. Like, first of all, from your perspective, to go through everything you just mentioned, from going long stretches where their teams weren't interested, to then having a team trade specifically for you, like that must have just been like the craziest feeling ever.
I, yeah, I was like, I don't know why. I don't know what it is about me that's like caught your attention. Like I'm just some random average guy. Like there's nothing special about me. Um, but then I was like, you know what? Like they wanted me for a reason. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And then, but yeah, I mean, it was wild. I'll tell you that much. I've never been a part of one. Now I know what to experience if it ever happens again. But yeah, it was crazy.
Well, now you have some stability. Now you know like what organization you're going to be at. I'm sure that's takes a load off you from that
Yeah,
perspective. The logistical side, I can't even imagine the midseason trade logistics. Probably lived out of a hotel for a while. Like that's got to be weird.
yeah. Lived at a hotel since May, week to week, moving in hotels, moving out of hotels. Oh yeah, it was been a long time.
How good are you at packing though?
Honestly, I got one suitcase that's a certain amount, and I just go from place to place. So like I'm pretty set. Like it's 50 pounds right on the dot, and I'm good.
Love that. Last question. I had a question about indie ball. I used to do the podcast with Brian O'Grady, who played for a couple different indie ball teams, buddies with Dan Straley, who I think he played with in Long Island. They just have raved about the experience and how it's kind of like reinvigorated them. What is it about that style of ball? Is it just being around the fellas again? I know the pay isn't great, but what is it about indie ball that makes it stand out for you?
Well, you see guys play the game, and these kids that I was with, fresh out of college, and they're making $900 every month, and they you ask them like, man, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not making a living. Like, you're not making anything. And they kids. I mean, they always come back. It's like, I love baseball. Like, I love it. Like, that's why I do it. Like, I'm not doing it for the money. Like, yeah, like I'd love to make it to the big leagues. I'd love to make it to affiliate ball. Like, a lot of them don't even say big leagues. A lot of them just say, I want to make it to affiliate ball. And so like you hear these guys talk about it, and it's like that's why I started doing what I was doing when I was a kid. Like I started doing it because I loved the game, and then you get caught up in like the big leagues and like the money and all that stuff. And it's like, you know what? Like no, like you got caught. Like you started this whole journey because you love baseball. So here's what's like. I'm gonna take you down, and I'm gonna put you in indie ball. And now this is what's gonna happen. Like you're gonna start in indie ball, and you're gonna relearn how to love the game of baseball again, and then it's gonna go forward. So like seeing that, man, like it was like it truly was. It was special. Like I enjoyed everyone that was on the team. I thought everyone on that team, that Long Island Ducks team, this April, they played a special part in me making it back to the big leagues. Because if it wasn't for those guys in that locker room, I don't think I would have made it back. I really don't.
You play with Frank Schwindel too.
I did. Prank the
Yeah,
tank.
Frank the Tank, dude. I love that guy. He's the best.
He's down in the Dominican now.
Oh, is he for
Yeah.
winter ball?
Yeah.
I hope he gets another shot, man. Yeah, that was such a fun run with the Cubs. But you're right, man. Yeah, it's just any ball. There's something about it. It's like across the board, just like strip it all down. Why am I doing this? Because I love ball. It's the
No doubt.
best.
No doubt.
Oh man, this has been incredible, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and hot and talking ball for a little bit. I'm glad we're able to make this work. I'm rooting for you, man. We're gonna try to get you back into to the Mets big league team here. We'll be watching some Mets games for you now. So appreciate your time and best of luck next season, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.